Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self-proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hi, everyone. It's Lydia, your official Oneness Junkie podcast host. So this is my first episode, and I'm going to share a little bit about the Oneness Junkie podcast, where it came from, and how my background led me to this idea. So the Oneness Junkie podcast will be introducing you to real-life stories of extraordinary individuals who are making a positive difference in their communities and in our world. We'll hear from authors and teachers, healers, coaches, guides, doctors, and individuals like you and me who have powerful stories of providing information, ideas, concepts, and services to help our personal evolution. In each of the episodes, you'll be introduced to and take a deep dive with our guest on the roads less traveled. The conversations will be between 30 minutes to an hour, just depending on the episode and the guest. And then every other week, I'll be releasing an episode. So they're going to fall on the second and fourth Thursday of each month. I'm hoping you'll be inspired by their vulnerability, learn of new resources, hear how they've navigated through challenges, and hopefully encourage you to follow your own inner guidance. Our hope is to encourage you to act on your own ideas, utilizing your time and talents to make the world a more compassionate place for everyone. The overall intention of the podcast is to create a more compassionate daily experience for us all and to spread the message of oneness globally. Now, let me take a few minutes to share with you a little bit about my background and what led me to create this podcast. So I am so grateful for all of the experiences I've had in my lifetime that led me to the place I am today. I grew up in traditional home with conservative values. I lived abroad. I graduated from Texas A&M University. And just right about that time that I was graduating, I tragically witnessed my sister's death by suicide, all before the age of 22. Needless to say, these experiences were challenging, and they actually set me on a path of a road less traveled. I had a strong urge at the time to discover the meaning of my life, so I began searching. I did do traditional therapy, but along with that, I decided that I wanted to find a more empowered and enlightened sense of self through a spiritual fulfillment. My seeker's journey began while reading the book Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Myss, and it really opened my mind. Then in 1997, I first learned about the concept of oneness through my all-inclusive spiritual center, which happened to be a church named Unity of Houston. There, they teach the principles of unity, love, and oneness. And this really resonated with me. Over time, I began to hear the word oneness used more and more. Sometimes you'll hear it in the yoga community, but it wasn't a mainstream word at this point. Over the next 20 years, I was working with different teachers and reading books by different authors, such as Iyanla Vanzant with her book In the Meantime, Gary Zukav with his book The Seat of the Soul. That is one of my favorite books. I think it's a must-read for everybody. It just answered so many questions for me, especially coming from a conservative values and traditional religious upbringing. Then there was Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, and I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of these names: Marianne Williamson, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Deepak Chopra, Christine Northrup, Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks, Matt Kahn, of course, everyone's favorite Oprah Winfrey, and so many others along the way. This continuous journey to self has further revealed my gifts as an empath, an HSP, which is a highly sensitive person, an energy reader, a connector, communicator, and a healer. And my corporate background and entrepreneurial experience have provided me with the tools to support getting this message of oneness out. So back in 2009, I was inspired to spread the message of oneness in a joyful, lighthearted way. From this, the Oneness Junkie t-shirt was created. The idea was that individuals could wear the t-shirt almost like a walking billboard and be an ambassador for oneness, both in their communities and globally. My hope was that the t-shirt would spark up conversations by those curious enough to ask. To my delight, the t-shirt has traveled the globe. In fact, Oneness Junkies have been photographed on 5 of the 7 continents. Places like Australia, Egypt, New Zealand, Hawaii, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, Europe, the United States, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And so now it's 2021, and I'm reigniting my efforts to share the message of oneness, but in this new format, the podcast. My hope is that the guest will inspire the listeners to greater levels of self-awareness and personal development, as well as offer new resources to them. The ultimate goal of the Oneness Junkie podcast is to create a more compassionate experience of ourselves, our neighbors, and the planet. But to do this, I'll need everyone's participation. So, will you join me? If so, let the journeys begin. I look forward to hosting my upcoming guest, and I hope you'll listen. The next release is going to be on Thursday, November 25th, and that's my first guest, and I'm so excited to share him with you all. So I hope you'll come back, and please subscribe to the podcast if you want to be notified when new episodes get released. So one thing I like to say is, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And compassion starts with you and me. See you next time. We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.